Hi friends, welcome to Beautifully Bookish Bethany. In today's video, I am trying to read down my review TBR by tackling all the novellas because I can get through them faster than the full-length novels, and there are a lot of them. So my goal is to see how fast I can get through these. I will say two of them are like short novels in verse, but I think close enough to count, so we're just gonna go with it. I have two of these physically, and the rest of them I only have digitally. First up is The Leaving Room by Amber McBride. This is a YA novel in verse that is under 200 pages, I think like under 150 pages. I would call that a novella about a girl who is in between life and death and what that's like. It sounds a little sad, but I have read from her before and liked her writing, so we're gonna give that one a go. Then I have a YA sapphic holiday romance novella called Joy to the Girls by Rachel Lippincott and Allison Derrick. This sounds really cute. We've got two girlfriends on a college holiday break, and maybe they have secrets that they aren't telling each other, but it's a little novella. The writing team are married to each other, which I think is fun. I've read one of their other books that I really liked, so excited for that. Then for digital arcs, I have The First Thousand Trees by Premi Mohammed. This is the third novella in an excellent dystopian sci-fi series. I really love the first two novellas, and I'm excited to see where the third one goes. It's part coming of age story of this young woman, but she is living in a world where there's this fungus that grows in the human body and will eventually kill people. And I don't want to spoil anything necessarily, but I will give you like the vibes of book 3 when I read it. I'm excited. Next, I've got Fate's Bane by C.L. Clarke. This is a sapphic fantasy novella by an author that I like, so I'm excited to check that one out. Psychopomp and Circumstance by Eden Royce. This is another horror novella that I know is dealing with grief in some sense, and I think it's historical. I think that'll be fun. And then lastly, we have King of the Neuroverse by Idris Goodwin. This is another YA novel in verse that is pretty short. It's under 200 pages, and I do think this one has a speculative element to it, like a bit of a contemporary YA sci-fi twist of some sort. I don't remember the details. So horror, sci-fi, fantasy, a little bit of YA, some romance. We've got like a good blend of books here. So I'm excited. I'm gonna dive into these, and I will check back in once I've read one of the novellas. It's gonna be so easy, I said. I will get through so many novellas so quickly, I said. Y'all, it has not gone as anticipated. I have finished one of these novellas so far. I have listened to some other audiobooks, but only one novella. I won't tell you how many days it's been since I've updated you. So even though I had planned to have this video go up during New York Comic Con, I don't think that's actually gonna happen because it's already Tuesday, Comic Con starts on Thursday, and we have finished one novella. It is what it is. It'll go up later. We'll do something else for content. That said, let's talk about the one that I have finished. I did read The First Thousand Trees by Premi Mohammed. This was really interesting because it was not what I expected. The first two novellas follow this young woman, and this goes back and follows her best friend from the very beginning of novella 1, when they sort of part ways. He's been kind of shunned by their town, and so he goes off on his own to try to find a new life in a new place that ends up being a lot rougher than he anticipated, and he goes through kind of a process of change over the course of the novella. I think what's interesting about these is that all three of them offer a different look at different ways humanity might try to survive and make a life for themselves in these kinds of circumstances, and the problems that come along with them. They're really well written and interesting, so I would definitely recommend them. I liked this. I'm happy that I finished it. I am in the middle of two others. I started reading, which is definitely slower paced. It's taking me a little while to get into the vibe of the writing. It is horror, spooky vibes. And then I also started reading King of the Neuroverse, which I think I was a little wrong about what it is. It's still good and I'm glad I'm reading it, but it's not quite what I was expecting. It is a novel in verse. It's about a Black teen boy with ADHD trying to navigate high school and the challenges that he faces because of his ADHD. So I think in my head I thought maybe it was speculative. I don't think it is speculative unless it's gonna like change dramatically, but so far at least it's not. I am liking it though, and it's reading pretty quickly. So those are the 2 ebooks that I am in the middle of currently for this project. I will check back in once I have finished something. Let's hope that I can finish some things a little bit faster. I've had a lot going on the last week, more than I expected. Hello. So Comic-Con is over, and I think I have finished one other novella. I'll be honest, it is a very intense few days that goes by a little bit like a blur. I don't get a lot of reading done, but I did finish King of the Neuroverse, and then I got a physical copy in the mail from the publisher, so thank you to them. I think this is really good. It is not at all speculative, which is what I had thought for some reason. It's not. It is good, though. It's a YA contemporary novel in verse about this Black teenager in high school who is struggling with school, and he has ADHD. He's in the process of getting diagnosed. It's set in the 90s. He is sort of at odds with his English teacher and expresses himself through verse and through rhyming. I really liked it. I think it's really well done. I think it's tackling the way that ADHD can impact people, including impacting students of color, where there sometimes would be assumptions made about them that might not be really who they are and might have more to do with the neurology of their brains and the things that they're dealing with that maybe wouldn't be interpreted the same way in a different student, we'll say. Yeah, this was really good. I liked it. This week I am hoping to finish up some more novellas. I've made a little bit of progress on a couple things, but nothing really worth talking about. So stay tuned. I will be back in the next few days with more. We're gonna read these novellas. I finished another book and it was super cute. This is Joy to the Girls by Rachel Lippincott and Allison Derrick. This is a very fun sapphic holiday romance novella. It is following 2 characters from a previous novel that I think got together in college, and now they are graduating and are keeping secrets from each other that are going to maybe impact their relationship. One of them applied to and got accepted to an MFA program in London and hasn't told her girlfriend about it yet, even because she's worried how she's going to react, even though she wants to stay together. And the other one of them has been planning to try to get her girlfriend to move in with her. So they need to have some hard conversations. Meanwhile, they're going on a trip with some friends and they're trying to do some matchmaking between their 2 friends who they think are into each other. So it's really lovely, really delightful. It makes me want to go back and read the novel. I think it's She Gets the Girl, which is where these 2 get together, but really fun, cute, light, holiday vibes. I enjoyed it. Hello, I finished another novella. This video is taking so much longer than it was originally intended to because like life has been lifing, but I finished another one and I am in the middle of 2 others, so I'm hoping I can finish them pretty quickly, maybe even today, and do an update and wrap up this vlog. I did end up DNFing one novella that I originally had planned to read. I'm gonna remove that from the beginning of the video. It was just very slow and not for me, which is totally fine. It happens. But I am happy to say that I read Fate's Bane and it was fantastic. This is a novella by C.L. Clarke, and the author has called this sad swamp lesbians, which is not wrong. I feel like this definitely has a fair amount of tragedy in it, but it is a sapphic romance between the daughters of 2 rival factions living in these like swampy bog areas. I feel like the time period is giving me Vikings. It's not Vikings, but it's giving me that sort of like level of rusticness to the world building. And we've got one of them who at 10 years old was kidnapped and held as a hostage for peace by a rival faction. And she ends up befriending and falling for the daughter of her captor, right? But then they grow up, things get complicated. Also, the 2 of them as girls found this mythical spring and drank from it, and then seemed to have this magical ability to imbue curses and luck and things into tooled leather things that they create, but it is definitely like star-crossed lovers. It's great. It's a really good novella. The writing is gorgeous. Definitely would recommend. I am in the middle of the last two, and both of them are great. Psychopomp and Circumstance is really good. It's really interesting. It follows a young woman in like a fantasy version of 1800s American South, I feel, is like late 1800s is maybe what it's giving, like Reconstruction era, I think. So it follows a Black young woman whose mother had a big falling out with her sister years ago, and she hasn't seen her aunt since, and they just found out that her aunt has died. And she, against her mother's wishes, volunteers to go plan and host her pomp, which is like her funeral and whatever rituals that they do in this semi-magical world, where I think maybe the ghosts stay around until the ritual happens. It's a little unclear, but she goes, and it's a lot about grief and family history, and so far it's really good, so I'm loving that. And then I am also reading The Leaving Room by Amber McBride, which is a YA novel in verse about death and somebody who's in this place in between death where she helps children who are dying let go and move on, and that's dark, but the writing is lovely and I'm curious to see where it goes. So 2 things left to read. I'm going to finish them and then I will check back in and we will wrap up this vlog, and then I will do another project to read all the other things that I still have on my TBR. So it has been several weeks since the beginning of this video, which I thought I would just fly right through, and this month that has not been what's happened. However, I have finally finished my last 2 novellas and I'm here to wrap up this video. Listen, the way that this month has not gone as planned, which is totally fine. I have had a lot going on. There was New York Comic Con, there's been stuff in my personal life, there's been like job interviews, there's like been a lot of things happening. But you know what? Through it all, we have gotten some reading done, and I'm knocking some things off my TBR. I've read some great books. Let's go ahead and dive in. First up, I did finish reading The Leaving Room by Amber McBride. I think this is a really interesting take on grief and moments between life and death and how we process life and the different stages of life. It follows this young woman in the in-between who is in this room and has to help different children pass on or like let go and move on. Or does she? And things get a little bit complicated. The book is divided up into the different stages of grief. And while the ending of it is pretty hopeful, I think it's interesting. It's a little bit of a darker look at like, what is the meaning of life? And what does it mean to go through loss and grief and all of these different things, and why might we feel anger? I don't know. It's really interesting, like as if there's this like in-between decision-making place during the 4 minutes between life and death. I think it's good. I think her writing is good. There's a lot of beautiful imagery and language used. It's sapphic. So my feelings are generally pretty positive about this. I feel like it was a good one. The last book that I read was Psychopomp and Circumstance, and I freaking loved it. I definitely think I will be recommending this one to people. It also goes on my list of like spooky stories for people who want to dip their toes into horror but don't want anything truly scary. I feel like it's a really good pick for that. But it also just has so many layers of nuance and insight into the themes that it's exploring, and the way that it gets into grief and regret and family messiness and coming of age, and how we sort of like create space for ourselves, create places for ourselves when the world doesn't necessarily offer them to us. So there are creepy, spooky, horror light, haunted house type moments in the book, but really it's this beautiful story of this young woman finally stepping into herself and finally doing things for herself and not for other people. So I loved it. I thought this was excellent, really, really good, and what a great way to end this project. Hopefully this was interesting, and maybe as we're nearing the end of the year, if you're looking for some short books to slot in places, whether it's a reading goal you're trying to hit, or whether you just want something that doesn't require an extended period of your attention when there's so many competing demands with the holidays, I feel like these are some really great options in a variety of genres. So hopefully that's useful to you. It was even if this video took far longer than I had anticipated it taking. Sometimes that's just the way it goes, so it's fine. Since it's almost Halloween, if you reach this point in the video, drop a spooky emoji in the comments down below, or let me know any of your thoughts about any of the books that I read or this video. For your question of the day, I would love to hear you recommend a novella or a short novel that you think people should check out before the end of the year. If you like this video, it always helps if you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.